Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're kind of swapping our usual focus for an essential study session, really getting into the nuts and bolts of modern governments. Welcome to our fun little study group for PP 5340 Introduction to Public Policy and Management. This is part two of the readings from section 13, Collaborative Governance, Mission-Based Procurement and Contracting. We're diving deep into how local governments can actually succeed when they're facing these problems that are frankly just too big, too messy for any single agency to handle on its own. Our sources today really lay out the blueprints. First up, we've got the strategic view from Harnessing the Power of Community Collaborations by Lyle Ray and Paul Epstein. That's from March 2012. And second, we've got a super practical roadmap, a county manager's guide to shared services in local government by Eric Zimmering and Daryl DeLabio from 2013.
Right. And our mission for you, the listener, is really to help you move past that old idea of government agencies working in their own little silos. We're aiming to understand the toolkit, the modern tools needed to really leverage community assets and build these durable, accountable agreements that cross boundaries. If you want to know how effective local governance actually gets structured today and how public managers go from just talking about things to getting measurable results, well, this deep dive should really help.
Okay, perfect. Let's unpack this, starting with that core challenge. The big, messy problems. Ray and Epstein kick things off with a really relatable example, don't they? This Midwestern county just wrestling with high school dropout rates.
Yeah, persistent ones.
And it's a problem that just resists simple fixes. You can't just, throw more counselors at it or tweak the curriculum and expect it to go away. It really demanded collaboration. We're talking county staff, mayors, school superintendents, teachers, parents, even the students themselves.
Absolutely.
The challenge isn't just delivering a service. It's about coordinating political will, community assets across all these different jurisdictional lines.
And what's so fundamental about that example is the structural flaw it highlights. These complex issues could be dropouts, could be obesity, poverty, safety, etc. They just don't fit neatly into one organization's box. So if leadership tries to dump the whole burden, success or failure, onto just one agency, say, only the school board is responsible for dropouts. The result is often, kind of disastrous.
Right.
That narrow focus, it either just dissolves the community energy you desperately need, or, even worse, it actually unites energy against that one organization. They become the scapegoat for a problem that's really societal. The core insight here is you can't really manage these complex problems directly. You have to manage complex collaborations.
That makes sense. And that insight leads us straight into this framework they mentioned, collective impact. Comes from Kanya and Kramer back in 2011. And it's not just, calling a meeting and having coffee. It's a really specific, disciplined commitment from all sorts of actors, different sectors, all focused on a common agenda. And for that commitment to actually work, you need four key things to hold it together, to force accountability. First, that common agenda. Everyone's got to agree on the problem and the goal.
Right. Shared understanding.
Second, a common measurement system. Success needs to look the same to everyone involved. Third, continuous communication, keeping that energy flowing. And fourth, maybe the most critical piece, mutually reinforcing action.
Yes, that last one is absolutely key. Mutually reinforcing action. That's what moves you beyond just, friendly chats in a task force meeting. It means the actions of, say, the private sector have to actively support what the nonprofits are doing, which in turn supports what government's doing, and back again. So like their example, if schools start healthy eating programs, great. But local stores and community gardens also need to make sure fresh produce is actually affordable and accessible.
Okay. So it's about alignment across everyone.
Exactly. That alignment. That's the difference between a task force that just writes a report and real collective impact that changes outcomes.
Okay. So collective impact is the big strategy, but how do you make that manageable day-to-day for a public manager? That's where Ray and Epstein bring in the community results toolkit, right?
Precisely. It's 7 complementary tools designed to make these collaborations more, manageable, responsive, and definitely more accountable. It provides structure.
All right, let's walk through these 7 tools, because they sound like they really shift how public management has to operate.
They really do.
Yeah.
Okay, tool number 1. Engaging residents in multiple roles. The old way, the trap, is seeing residents just as stakeholders you have to consult or customers you deliver a service to, passively. This toolkit says, no, the real power is seeing residents as active partners in solving the problem, engaging them right from the start, diagnosing the issue, figuring out solutions, implementing them, their local knowledge, their energy. It's an asset you have to channel.
Okay, makes sense. Treat them like part of the team. What's tool number 2? Causal diagrams. to diagnose the problem.
This one's crucial. So often, people show up to the table already convinced they know the solution. We need more police, or we need this specific program.
Right. They jump straight to the fix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you haven't agreed on the root cause, you waste endless time arguing over fixing symptoms. So these diagrams, they mention using things like fishbone diagramming, borrowed from quality improvement.
Oh, yeah, Ishikawa diagrams.
Right. They help you visually sort out the complexities, figure out the different contributing factors, methods, materials, environment, whatever, so everyone can actually agree on where the real leverage points are. It forces that objective diagnosis before you start talking solutions.
Got it. Diagnose first. Then tool number 3, evidence-based practices to get results. This sounds like common sense, but maybe isn't always common practice.
You'd be surprised. This tool is vital because it forces the group to avoid what the source calls, pretty bluntly, fashionable but ineffective solutions.
I like that.
Yeah. Any proposed strategy has to be checked against actual research or, documented best practices. We can't afford to waste resources reinventing wheels that don't roll or funding things just because they sound good politically but don't actually achieve anything.
So how do you do that? Where do you find this evidence?
Well, it means managers and their partners need to actively use specialized resources. Like for public health issues, the CDC's community guide is mentioned. It reviews what actually works. Or for youth and education, something like the Search Institute's developmental asset tools provides validated approaches. You have to look for what's proven.
Okay, so tool 2 is diagnosis. Tool 3 is checking the medicine actually works. What's tool number 4? Strategy maps to structure the response.
Right. This is the treatment plan. Complex problems need complex multi-part solutions. Strategy maps are visual tools that force partners to map out the driver relationships.
Driver relationships. What does that mean exactly?
It means showing how one action is expected to drive the success of another. So, for example, maybe improving high school attendance, that's action A, is believed to drive higher graduation rates. Outcome B.
Okay.
The map lays out these causal chains. It helps break down those organizational silos because every partner can see exactly how their piece fits into the bigger picture, the overall logic. It's powerful for communication, the whole strategy on one page.
That makes sense. Which leads pretty naturally to tool number 5, performance measurement of drivers and outcomes. You map the drivers, now you measure them.
Precisely. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And the crucial thing here is measuring both the final outcome, like, say, lower childhood obesity rates, which is a lagging indicator.
Right, you see that result later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also measuring the drivers. Those are the leading indicators, the things you can actually manage day to day, like the number of after-school programs running or how many schools meet the new nutrition standards. You need measures that help you steer the ship, not just read the logbook after the journey.
Steer the ship, I like that. Okay, tool number 6, detailed action plans. This sounds standard, but how is it different in this collaborative context?
Well, the plans themselves aren't revolutionary, but how they're built is. In this model, the action plans are much stronger because every single task, every responsibility is explicitly linked back to that focused strategy map we talked about.
Back to the drivers.
Exactly.
Right.
And linked to a specific performance measure and assigned to a specific community partner. It's about making accountability crystal clear and operational.
Okay. And the source mentions something about the timing here, that it's not always linear.
Yeah, that was a really useful practical insight. Conceptually, you'd think you set all the measures first, then build the plan. But in reality, they say a lot of the specific targets and even some performance measures get figured out while you're developing the action plans.
So it's more iterative, back and forth.
Exactly. Strategy informs the action, but the practicalities of the action plan often refine the metrics you need. It's dynamic.
Okay, last one. Tool number 7, community results compacts. This sounds formal.
It is. It's basically reviving an old idea, formal written commitments, where organizations from any sector, public, private, nonprofit, pledge to achieve a specific community outcome.
So like a contract for results.
Sort of. But for them to be meaningful, not just symbolic, they have to be tied directly to those performance measures for the drivers we discussed. Real accountability. They give that Truckee Meadows Tomorrow example in Nevada TMT.
Yeah.
They create these quality of life compacts.
Right, I remember reading that. Focused on the environment.
Yeah, one compact aimed at cutting down unhealthy air quality days and the region's carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And here's the key part. It wasn't just government. Government agencies and private companies with big vehicle fleets committed to increasing their use of cleaner alternative fuels. Okay, that's one piece. But crucially, private developers also signed on, committing to build new commercial and housing projects meeting LED standards, those tough green building codes.
Wow, okay. So everyone has skin in the game tied to measurable actions.
Precisely. The government's accountable for its fleet policy, the private sector's accountable for building standards, and together, they're accountable for the community outcome, cleaner air.
That really ties the whole toolkit together. It shows that tackling these big issues needs that whole package: diagnosis, evidence, strategy, measurement, and these formal accountability mechanisms like compacts.
Exactly. It's a structured approach to a messy reality.
All right, that gives us a great framework for broad community collaboration. Now let's shift gears a bit and zoom in on a really specific government mechanism: shared services. This brings us to that second reading, the County Manager's Guide.
Right, and this is where we get really operational. A shared service project, according to Ziemering and DeLabio, is strictly defined. It's an agreement, usually a formal contract or interlocal agreement between two or more local government units
To what exactly?
to buy services from each other, sell services, jointly produce something, or even consolidate a specific service delivery, like maybe merging two small dispatch centers.
Okay. And they make a really important distinction here, don't they? This is not government consolidation.
Crucial point. Yes. Consolidation means merging entire governmental bodies, like a city and county becoming one. That's politically explosive, incredibly rare, and the evidence on whether it actually saves money is, frankly, pretty debated.
Right. People get very protective of their local identity.
Exactly. Shared services are different. They're pragmatic, usually voluntary contractual deals. They aim for efficiency without wiping out those political identities.
So why the big push for these shared services, especially among counties? The obvious answer seems to be money, right?
Bingo. Historically, and still often primarily, it's driven by pure economics. Budget savings. Governments are looking for economies of scale. It's just cheaper to buy 10,000 reams of paper together than 1,000 each.
Or run one big vehicle maintenance shop instead of two small ones.
Precisely. Or sometimes it's about generating new revenue. A county might have extra capacity on its 911 dispatch system or in its IT department and can sell that service to a smaller neighboring town.
Okay, the economic drivers are clear, especially when budgets get tight. But the source argues there's a lot more to it than just saving cash. This is where it gets really interesting, with those 6 non-budgetary rationales.
Yes. And these are huge because they suggest the real long-term strategic value of shared services goes way beyond just the bottom line. They represent a shift in thinking.
Let's unpack those 6. What's the first one?
First, stimulating innovation. Think about it. When two governments start talking about maybe merging their libraries or the road crews, they're forced to take a hard, explicit look at how they're currently doing things.
Things they probably haven't questioned in years.
Exactly. That process often shines a light on duplicated efforts, or maybe bureaucratic processes that made sense once, but are now just inefficient. The negotiation itself pushes them to focus on the outcome the public service needed, rather than just protecting their old internal ways of doing things. It forces process improvement.
Okay, innovation through comparison. Makes sense. Second, improved decision-making. How does sharing improve decisions?
It's about durability. Shared service agreements, especially complex ones, take time. There's negotiation, consensus building on service standards, figuring out cost allocation.
Like agreeing on exactly how fast the joint fire truck needs to arrive.
Precisely. Because you invest all that time and effort up front, hashing out the details, the resulting agreements, the service models tend to be much more robust and resilient than something one agency cooks up quickly on its own. That upfront work prevents future blowups.
Okay, durability through detailed negotiation. Third, building on complementary strengths. This sounds like the classic win-win.
It absolutely is. Instead of every little town trying to be world-class at everything, which is impossible, they can focus on what they do well in trade.
So County A has a great GIS mapping department, but Town B next door has amazing parks maintenance.
Right. So maybe County A provides GIS services to Town B, and Town B helps maintain county parks near the town line. They swap strengths, leveraging specialized expertise efficiently across boundaries.
Got it. Fourth, transferring knowledge and skills. How does that work?
2 ways, really. One is direct. A county might contract with a larger neighbor for highly specialized skills they can't afford full-time, maybe forensic accounting for a tricky audit, or specialized legal advice on zoning.
Okay, buying expertise.
But the second way is often more subtle and maybe even more valuable. These agreements often create working groups where staff, Not just the bosses, but the folks doing the work from different jurisdictions meet regularly. They talk, they share problems, they share solutions. That informal exchange of best practices and know-how can be incredibly valuable.
Building that cross-boundary network at the staff level.
Exactly. Fifth, increased levels or quality of service. This is important.
Yeah.
Sometimes sharing isn't about saving money at all. It's about providing a service that was simply out of reach before.
Like what?
Maybe a group of smaller towns chip in together to fund a specialized detective unit for complex crimes, or they pool resources to buy state-of-the-art dispatch software. Residents get a better quality service, maybe dramatically better, even if the total cost isn't lower. It's about improving value, not just cutting costs.
And finally, sixth, improved working relationships. This sounds like the glue holding it all together long term.
It really is. The county manager might know the city manager, they see each other at meetings, but the public works directors, the finance clerks, they usually operate in total isolation.
Right, different buildings, different bosses.
Shared service agreements force regular communication and coordination between those operational staff across the jurisdictional lines. That builds crucial informal networks, trust, and understanding. That relational capital is gold for tackling the next problem that comes along.
Okay, so strong theoretical justifications, both economic and strategic. But theory is one thing. The guide is pretty clear that making collaboration actually happen is tough. It doesn't just magically occur.
Absolutely not. The literature, the managers they interviewed, they all stress. Collaboration is, in many ways, an unnatural act for government. Success depends entirely on getting certain fundamentals right first. They identify 3 non-negotiable preconditions.
All right, let's hit those. Precondition number 1, leadership. The champion.
Non-negotiable. You absolutely need visible, enthusiastic support from the elected officials, the chief administrators. These are the champions who provide the political cover, who push the idea, who keep it on the agenda when things get tough.
And it's not just the top bosses, right? It's also the implementation teams.
Yes, critical point. You need leadership and buy-in from the people actually tasked with making it work day to day. There's a great quote from County Mayor Rogers Anderson in Tennessee. He said, the leader has to be like the coach and the athletic director, constantly selling the vision, convincing skeptical players and stakeholders that this different way is better. Without that sustained, visible push from the top, these projects just wither under political pressure or internal resistance.
And that implementation team leadership.
Yeah.
There was that example from Kershaw County, South Carolina. They set up that synergy committee.
Right, with folks from the county, the city, the school district, even the hospital. And their first big win, jointly purchasing office paper. It sounds small, but sometimes proving you can successfully cooperate on something simple, like buying staples, is a massive political win. It builds that initial bit of trust, that track record, which then gives you the political capital to try something bigger and more complex next time.
Okay, so leadership is table stakes. Precondition number 2, trust, reciprocity, and transparency.
This is huge. Katie Simon, the Washoe County manager in Nevada, put it perfectly. Relationships are the currency of how we get everything done. Trust isn't automatic. It has to be earned, built over time through a history of reliable cooperation.
Like that Catawba County example, building on past economic development work.
Exactly. They leveraged the trust they'd already built in one area to launch a much more complex joint service and cost-sharing initiative. You build on past successes.
But here's something that seems a bit contradictory. If trust is so important, why does the guide then strongly recommend really detailed contracts? Doesn't needing a lawyer proof everything kind of imply you don't trust the other party?
That's a fantastic question, and it highlights a real tension. The sources acknowledge this. They point out, citing folks like Cook, Hardin, and Levi, that yes, cooperation can happen even with low trust.
Oh.
By spending a lot more time and effort crafting incredibly detailed, formalized contracts that spell out every possible scenario, every responsibility, every contingency, the contract essentially becomes a substitute for the missing relational trust.
Which sounds expensive and slow.
Exactly. It's inefficient. However, even when trust is high, the managers interviewed still overwhelmingly prefer detailed documentation. Why? Because people change. Mayors get voted out, managers retire, staff move on.
Ah, so the contract provides continuity.
Right. It manages uncertainty and turnover, and it also ensures reciprocity. That's the other key part of this precondition. Every partner has to feel that the deal is fair, that the costs and benefits align reasonably for them. If one side feels they're constantly giving more than they're getting, the trust will erode, no matter how good the initial relationship was. The contract helps lock in that fairness.
Okay, trust, reciprocity, transparency, and detailed contracts. Got it. Precondition number 3, clear goals and measurable results.
Absolutely critical. You have to decide what success looks like before you start, and you have to put systems in place to actually collect the data to see if you're achieving it.
So if the goal is saving money, track the dollars. If it's faster service, track the response times.
Precisely. And this is crucial for managing expectations, especially political ones. The guide specifically warns managers,
Mm-hmm.
do not oversell the benefits of a merger or a shared service.
Be realistic.
Be realistic. That Pasquotank County example in North Carolina is great. They merged Parks and Recreation with Elizabeth City. They told everyone up front, look, we're doing this for efficiency, for better service coordination. We are not promising this will save money.
And that worked.
It worked because they defined success clearly as efficiency and standardization, not budget cuts. They managed the narrative. The recommendation is that counties should actually keep an inventory, a list, of all their cooperative service agreements. And they need to rigorously track performance data, financial savings, quality improvements, whatever the goal was, and link it to those agreements.
Because you can prove it's working or adjust if it isn't.
Exactly. It justifies the continued investment of time and political capital in these collaborative ventures.
All right, leadership, trust, clear goals. Those are the foundations. Now let's get into the real practical stuff. Implementing and actually maintaining these shared service relationships day to day. The guide gives some great case studies here.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road. Let's start with probably one of those famous long-running examples. County sheriffs acting as contract service managers.
The Lakewood Plan in LA County, right? Going on forever.
Since 1954,
Right,
you've
right.
got 42 separate cities in LA County that contract with the county sheriff's department for their police services.
Wow. Why does that model work so well for so long?
It hits both sides of the equation. For the sheriff's department, it means more revenue, economies of scale in training and equipment, and more diverse assignments for their deputies.
And for the cities.
Huge benefits, significant cost savings compared to running their own departments, plus immediate access to all the specialized resources the large sheriff's department has: SWAT teams, helicopters, sophisticated crime labs, specialized investigators, things a small city could never afford alone.
So what are the key lessons from that model for anyone thinking about contracting out a major service?
The guide pulls out a few critical ones. First, cost transparency is absolutely non-negotiable. The cities need to know exactly what they're paying for. Second, and this is fascinating, the cities must retain local control over the visible aspects of policing, things that signify local identity.
Like what? Uniforms,
Yep.
car markings.
Exactly. Sheriff Sue Rahr from King County is quoted saying the cities have to be able to call the shots on things like paint schemes, uniform patches, maybe even setting local enforcement priorities. The service is contracted, but the identity and sense of local control has to remain.
That makes sense. People want to feel like it's their police force.
Right. And the third big lesson is that the relationship needs constant attention. One LA sheriff's lieutenant said it has to be nurtured every day. Small problems have to be addressed immediately before they fester and become reasons to question the whole contract. It's active relationship management.
Constant nurturing. Okay. What about another example? The guide mentioned Howard County, Maryland, and its public schools finding efficiencies.
Yeah, this is a great example of finding operational savings between two often separate government entities.
Mm-hmm.
In Maryland, counties and school districts can be fiscally independent, so collaboration isn't always automatic.
So what did they do?
After the 2008 downturn, they deliberately set up a high-level task force. Key budget and management people from both the county government and the school system started meeting regularly, specifically looking for overlap and savings.
And did they find any?
Big time. The first major win was simply deciding to jointly bid out their health and dental insurance plans. Just doing that together saved them $4.3 million a year.
Wow. Just from combining purchasing power.
Exactly. Even smaller things added up, like adding the school buses to the county's bulk fuel contract saved significant money annually. But the really big one was on the capital side, fleet maintenance. The county bought an old, vacant auto dealership to use as its central maintenance facility.
Smart reuse.
Yeah. And when the school district realized they needed a similar facility, instead of building their own, they worked out a deal to co-locate their bus maintenance operations in the same repurposed building.
Sharing the facility.
Sharing the facility. That move alone saved the school district an estimated $8 million compared to building a separate shop. It shows how just getting the right people talking can unlock huge system-level efficiencies, not just operational ones.
Okay, those are powerful examples. So, based on these cases and others, the guide offers 5 key recommendations for actually planning and implementing shared services successfully.
Right, 5 practical steps. Recommendation 1, create a shared services assessment team. And the key here is transparency and broad deliberation, not just backroom deals.
Like that Augusta County, Virginia example after annexation tensions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They formed a governance team that wasn't just county and city staff locked in a room. They included community members, too. Patrick Caulfield, the county administrator there, said that open process was crucial to avoid political whiplash. It allowed potentially sensitive conversations to happen constructively, and it led to real results. 50 documented accomplishments, like building a regional animal shelter together. The goal is building that long-term collaborative muscle.
Okay, involve everyone early. Recommendation 2. Seek the strengths in each participating government. This goes back to that complementary strengths idea.
Right. It requires an honest look in the mirror. What does our county actually do really well? Where do we have maybe some extra capacity we could offer? Mecosta County, Michigan realized they had really strong, efficient tax administration processes. So they started selling that service on a per parcel basis to neighboring townships.
Finding their niche.
Exactly. And sometimes opportunities pop up unexpectedly because of turnover. Remember that Archuleta County, Colorado example?
When the town's building inspector left.
Right. The town suddenly had a gap. The county stepped in and started providing building inspection services for them. As the county administrator pointed out, the average citizen doesn't really care whose logo is on the inspector's truck.
They just want their permit approved quickly and correctly.
Precisely. It's about meeting the need efficiently. And this leads to that really creative idea, the service swap model. Racine County, Wisconsin, had to close a county office in Burlington because of state aid cuts. Big problem for residents needing services there.
So what did they do?
They got creative. They went to the city of Burlington and said, look, we'll provide your HR administrative services from our central office, a service the city needed.
Okay. In exchange for what?
In exchange, Burlington city staff agreed to handle certain county transactions like issuing marriage licenses, collecting tax payments right there at their city hall. So residents still had local access.
Wow, that's clever. Trading back office functions for front office access.
Exactly. And the county executive, James Ladwig, said the key was being willing to give up control for constituents' benefit. They prioritized public access over internal silos. That's a mindset shift.
Definitely. Okay, recommendation 3. Consider pilot projects. Start small.
Start small. Don't try to merge the entire police and fire departments on day one. Look for the low-hanging fruit, as Patrick Caulfield from Augusta County put it.
Like?
Maybe a short-term need arises someone's on extended leave, or you need specialized equipment for just one project. Use that as an opportunity for a small-scale, temporary collaboration. These pilot projects let governments test the waters, see how well they work together. How's the communication? Is the organizational culture compatible? If a small pilot doesn't work out, the stakes are low, but you learn a ton about the other jurisdiction for potential future, bigger projects.
Test the waters before you dive in. Makes sense. Recommendation 4. Discuss and document responsibilities with all partners. Back to the contracts.
Back to the contracts. Even though some academic theories talk about relational contracting,
Yeah.
more informal trust-based agreements, the county managers in this guide were almost unanimous. You need detailed documentation
Why the insistence, even with trust?
because it provides clarity, assurance, and a baseline, especially when things change. Personnel change, priorities shift, budgets fluctuate. The written agreement provides stability and a clear reference point for responsibilities and expectations. That Contra Costa County library example is really stark. The library director, Ann Kane, inherited a system where agreements with cities for library services were decades old, often unsigned, and totally unclear on basics like who pays for what or staffing levels.
A mess.
A total mess. It took a huge amount of effort and difficult conversations to create a single, uniform service agreement that laid everything out clearly so everyone knew what to expect.
Yeah.
Detail prevents future conflict. Trust is essential, but documentation provides the guardrails.
Okay, get it in writing. Finally, recommendation 5. Make appropriate changes as needed. Be flexible.
Right. These aren't static deals. Things change. Public needs evolve, budgets go up or down, market conditions shift. Cooperative projects have to be adaptable.
That recycling example in Crawford County, Michigan illustrated this, right?
Perfectly. They had a nice, informal agreement with Grayling Township for recycling services. Worked fine for years. Then the global market for recyclables completely changed. Suddenly, the costs skyrocketed, putting huge strain on that informal handshake deal,
Forcing them to formalize things.
forcing them to sit down, renegotiate, and actually document the agreement properly to reflect the new economic reality. Informality works until it doesn't. And you also have to watch out for unintended consequences. Yuma County, Colorado, set up a great bus system, the County Express, providing much-needed subsidized transportation.
Sounds good.
It was, but a county commissioner noted an unexpected side effect. The cheap, easy transportation made it much simpler for kids to transfer to schools in neighboring districts, which created real budget headaches for the school districts losing students.
Wow, didn't see that coming.
Exactly. Collaboration in one area can ripple through the system in ways you didn't anticipate. You need that systemic view. And sometimes, despite best efforts, partnerships need to end. Washoe County ended an 11-year fire service contract with a city due to ongoing disagreements about costs and staffing levels.
So how do you handle termination gracefully?
The key advice is plan for it from the beginning. Include clear termination clauses, notice periods, procedures, asset dispositions right in the original agreement. And if you do have to end it, be completely transparent with the public and the partner about why. Don't let it become a political football if you can help it.
Plan the exit strategy up front. Good advice for any partnership. Okay, this has been incredibly detailed. Let's try to pull it all together. What's the big synthesis here?
I think the core synthesis, looking across both the broad community collaborations from the first reading and the specific shared service agreements from the second, is this. Success hinges entirely on deliberately building and maintaining relational assets.
Relational assets, meaning
Meaning that visible championing leadership from the top. Meaning that deep earned trust and sense of reciprocity between partners. And meaning those clear, measurable goals that are defined up front and tracked relentlessly against the actual drivers of performance. It's the human and systemic elements that make the technical agreements work.
And this whole approach seems geared towards solving a fundamental tension in modern public management, something G. Martin Wagner highlighted in the source material.
Exactly. It's the dilemma of how you capture the real benefits of economies of scale, the efficiency, the cost savings, while at the same time ensuring you maintain or even improve customer satisfaction at the local level.
Because just centralizing something to save money can often make the service worse or less responsive for the end user, right?
Precisely. You can't just focus on the provider's efficiency. You have to get the governance right, as Wagner puts it. That means explicitly linking the provider's efficiency goals to the user satisfaction through things like clear metrics, formal service level agreements, maybe even benchmarking against external providers. It's about achieving accountable efficiency, efficiency that serves the public well.
Accountable efficiency? I like that.
And that really leaves us with a powerful, provocative thought for you, the listener, especially as you wrap up this section for PP 5340. The managers and officials interviewed kept coming back to this idea. Successful collaboration requires looking beyond your own organizational borders, your own county line, and asking a really tough question.
Which is?
What provides the best benefit for my constituents, for my county, regardless of whether we are the ones operating it or not?
Ooh, that requires setting ego aside.
Completely.
Mm.
So the closing thought for you is, think about your own context. What existing system, what service maybe in your local government, your school district, even your own department, is being held on to, mainly because of tradition or departmental pride or just plain inertia?
And what would it really look like if you did an honest, no-ego assessment of its strengths and weaknesses and seriously consider potential collaboration with a neighbor, embracing that risk, that potential loss of direct control for the possibility of achieving a greater public benefit? It's a challenging question. It really is. A perfect place to leave it. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into collaborative governance and shared services. We'll see you next time.